So let's talk about what actually makes SBR challenging, because understanding this upfront will completely change how you approach your studies. The biggest mistake I see students make time and time again is thinking that SBR is just more financial reporting, that is just more standards to learn, more calculations to master, more content to memorize. And then they're shocked when they fail the exam despite knowing all the standards inside out. But here's the truth. SBR is fundamentally different from financial reporting. It's not just a step up in difficulty. It's a complete shift in what's being tested. In financial reporting, you were learning the rules and applying them to straightforward scenarios. The questions were clear. The answers were definite. You calculated goodwill, you prepared consolidated statements, you applied standards to transactions. But SBR is about professional judgment. It's about dealing with ambiguity. It's about situations where there isn't just one clear right answer, where you need to evaluate different treatments, consider multiple perspectives, and justify your professional reasoning. This is why students who are excellent in financial reporting sometimes struggle with SBR. It requires a completely different set of skills. And if you don't understand that from day one, you'll be studying the wrong way. To succeed in SBR, you need to master 3 key skills. And I want to be really clear about what each of these means. First, technical knowledge. Yes, you absolutely need to know the accounting standards. You need to understand IAS 38 on intangible assets, IFRS 15 on revenue, IFRS 16 on leases, and all the others. But, and this is crucial, knowing the standards is just the foundation. It's the minimum requirement, not the end goal. You're not being tested on whether you can recite IAS 38. You're being tested on whether you can apply it appropriately. Second, scenario analysis. This is why many students fall down. In SBR, you'll be given complex business scenarios, often several pages long. And you need to be able to read through all of that information, identify what's actually important, spot the accounting issues that are being tested, and understand what the examiner is really asking you to do. The examiner won't say, there's an impairment issue here. You need to spot the indicators. They won't say, calculate the deferred tax. You need to recognize that temporary differences exist. This skill of reading between the lines and identifying the issues is absolutely critical. The third, professional judgment. This is what separates SBR from financial reporting. In the real world, accountants face situations that don't have clear, cut-out answers. Should this be capitalized or expensed? Is this control or significant influence? Does this meet the recognition criteria? The standards give you the principle and guidance, but they don't give you a flowchart for every possible situation. You need to apply professional judgment. Take the principles, apply them to the specific circumstances, consider the substance of the transaction, and come to a reasoned conclusion. And crucially, you need to be able to justify and defend that conclusion. Let me give you a complete example that really illustrates how different SBR questions are. In financial reporting, you might see a question like, the company acquired equipment for $500,000. The useful life is 10 years with no residual value. Calculate the depreciation expense for the year. Straightforward, right? One calculation, one correct answer. Now, here's how the same topic might be examined in SBR. The company capitalized development cost of $2 million, stating that all IAS 38 criteria were met. However, the product is still in early stage testing and no market research has been conducted. Discuss whether this treatment is appropriate under IAS 38 and evaluate whether it aligns with the conceptual framework. Recommend any adjustments to the financial statement and explain the impact on key stakeholders. See the complete difference? You're not being asked to calculate anything. Instead, you need to evaluate what management has done. You need to know the IAS 38 criteria for capitalizing development costs. You need to apply those criteria to the specific situation. You need to identify that there are red flags here, early stage testing, no market research. You need to discuss whether the criteria are actually met. You need to consider the conceptual framework. Does this create an asset that meets the definition? Then you need to form a professional opinion, recommend adjustments, and think how this affects different stakeholders, investors, lenders, management. One question is testing calculation skills. The other is testing technical knowledge, analytical ability, professional judgment, and communication skills all at once. This is SBR. So what do examiners really want to see in your SBR answers? Because understanding this is key to passing. Let me start with what they don't want, because this is where so many students waste their time. Examiners don't want you to write out memorized definitions from the standards. Yes, you need to know what the standard says, but just reproducing the definition of the asset or the recognition criteria isn't enough. This might get you a couple of marks, but it won't pass you. They don't want calculations without any context or explanation. Unlike financial reporting, where a correct calculation might get you a full mark, in SBR, even if you get the numbers right, if you haven't explained the issue, discussed the principles, or shown your professional judgment, you'll lose significant marks. And they definitely don't want textbook reproductions, generic answers that could apply to any scenario. SBR is all about applying your knowledge to the specific situation in front of you. So what do they want then? First, they want to see application. Take the technical knowledge and apply it specifically to the scenario you've been given. Reference the specific facts. Explain why those facts matter for the accounting treatment. Second, they want analysis. Don't just describe what happened, analyze it. What are the issues? What are the implications? What are the different perspectives? What does this mean for the financial statements? Third, they want to see your professional reasoning. How did you reach your conclusion? What factors did you consider? What judgments did you make? Walk them through your thought process, like you would if you were explaining your reasoning to a senior colleague or a client. And finally, they want clear, justified recommendations. Take a position. Tell them what should be done. But back it out with a solid reasoning based on standards and the conceptual framework. This is a completely different way of answering questions compared to what you did in financial reporting. And this is why simply reading through the notes and memorizing standards won't get you through this exam. You need to practice applying your knowledge, practice analyzing scenarios, practice forming professional judgments, and practice structuring and communicating your reasoning. And that's exactly what our course is designed to help you develop. Not just technical knowledge, but these critical skills that examiners are looking for.
Now, it is important for you to practice, and practice. Because if you don't know how the theory is applied, it's useless. It will not let you score enough marks. So, make sure that you practice enough on the group questions. So, you would need to practice the acquisition, the disposal, the step acquisition, the step disposal, the change in control questions. You need to practice cash flow statement and discursive questions that are related to group financial statements, such as who is the acquirer, whether there is control or whether there is significant influence, or, for example, what is the functional currency of this very subsidiary, and so on. These are going to be tested in question 1, so we have to be absolutely certain in questions like that. Make sure that you practice ethical question, because that is something that is tested for sure. As for the rest of the standards, it is vital to know the following standards. IAS 38, tested very often. IFRS 15, revenue. IFRS 16, leases. All the standards relating to financial instruments, but let's be honest, it's either IAS 32 when the question is about whether it's equity or liability, and IFRS 9 for everything else. These are the standards that have 80% chance of being tested. So make sure that you really, really practice them. And of course, try to practice as much as possible. Don't focus only on these standards because it's not the only thing that gets tested in this exam, and you never know.
So now that you understand what SBR is all about, what's tested, and why practice is so important, let me quickly tell you what we've included in our SBR course at Practice Test Academy. First, we have comprehensive video lectures, bite-sized lessons covering every single chapter of the SBR syllabus. These aren't just recordings of some reading through standards. Lilia, so our tutor, breaks down the technical content, shows you how to apply it in the exam scenarios, and shares the exact techniques that examiners are looking for. Second, you get the complete study notes that are mapped directly to the syllabus. Everything you need to know, clearly structured and easy to revise from. Third, and this is crucial, you get access to our interactive question bank. This isn't just a bunch of PDFs with questions. You practice on our platform and you can track your progress across every topic. You can see which question you've done and which are still to be completed. And of course, you get 3 full mock examinations, timed exam standard mocks that replicate the real SBR sitting. Each mock comes with detailed model answers, so you can compare and see what you've done correctly and where you need to improve. Now, if you want even more support, we also offer tutor-marked mocks. This means you submit your mock exam answers, and one of our tutors will personally mark your script, give you detailed written feedback, show you where you're gaining and losing marks, and tell you exactly what you need to improve. This is available in our ultimate packages or as an add-on. Everything you need to pass SBR, the technical knowledge, the exam technique, the practice, and the feedback, all in one place. If you want to see how this looks like before you commit, we have a free trial where you can access Chapter 1, some practice questions, and a mini-mock, completely free for 30 days. No credit card required. Just click the link below and start your free trial. And if you are ready to jump in, you can check our full course packages below. We have options whether you are self-studying or whether you need that extra support with tutor marking. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you inside the course. Good luck with your SBR studies!